welcome back to Miss Annette's Little Farm in the Big City. Today we're going to be talking about barns, and we're going to be cleaning the barn as we talk. I want to show you some of the materials I use to clean the barn. I have some clean bedding. I have a bucket and my trowel. I have some diatomaceous earth. I have a stiff broom and a rake, my little rake. I like to use this little tiny rake. And I have some fly ribbon. And I have my trusty wheelbarrow. I've had it for almost 20 years. Something that happens a lot on a little farm is that you get a lot of pests, a lot of insects that are pests. So we use the diatomaceous earth to help keep down the fleas. So I spread this on the animals' bedding, and sometimes I spread it in the animal enclosure as well. We also have these fly ribbons, and these fly ribbons are non-toxic, so they don't have any chemicals in it. What they do have, however, is sticky stuff. So when a fly lands on it, it can't get off. It sticks to it like glue. And so that helps eliminate the flies. We have this in the duck enclosure, and I'm going to change it out to a new one. You can see there's a lot of flies when you have a farm, and you have to try to manage it, especially when you live in the city. I know that if you've been following my channel, you've seen me clean the barn before, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about what areas are designated for what animals and how we decided on this particular barn. And then we're also going to talk about the duck barn. I don't know if you'd really call it a barn, but their little house, maybe? I'm not sure. You decide. Let's take a look around the barn before we clean it up. Alright, you see on this door, it's going to need a good scrubbing because the chickens roost up there and they poo all over the door. And I don't know if this is coming on camera or not, but you can see all the spider webs. Cobwebs everywhere. And I'm going to sweep them up. Even though spiders are beneficial, when we have visitors, they don't always like to see spider webs. So I always try to keep the barn clear of them. And goat poo. Everywhere goat poo. I closed the gate because Miss Nosy here, she'll be getting in my way while I'm trying to clean. Won't ya? Won't ya, Leggy? Okay. Here's the goat hay bag, and looks like it's pretty full right now. And this is where they have their baking soda and their minerals. The chicken enclosure is really dirty. Can you see? Yucky poo-poo. Yucky poo-poo everywhere. And even a little egg. Oop, more than one egg. Some green eggs too. Everybody's been busy already on the little farm. So I need to clean out all this dirty litter. Put in some clean litter. I'm going to start with the cobwebs. I have most of the spider webs down, and most of the poop swept up. So now I'm going to go ahead and break both of the enclosures to put clean bedding down. The animal enclosures, or the barn, doesn't need as much cleaning in the summertime as it does in the winter because the animals don't spend as much time in the barns in the summertime as they do in the wintertime. So a little bit of cleaning to keep things nice adds to the quality of their lives and to mine too. Chicken enclosures are always the dirtiest. Maybe because there's so many of them. The barns can get really stinky if you don't keep them cleaned out. We use wood chips in our barn. Some people use sand, some people use sawdust. We just use wood chips because that's what's readily available for us. We like the way it absorbs the urine from the animals, and we like the way it smells when the barn is clean. Now I gotta open the gate and try to push all this out without having any interference from Miss Nosy Pants over here. Excuse me. She always wants to see what I'm doing. Wants to know if there's any food involved. Now comes the good part, making it smell fresh and clean. Pink knife. She always likes to nibble on it. Silly little goat. I'm packing all my things up and getting ready to go clean the duck barn. But before I do that, I want to show you the barn and explain why we made the barn the way we did. Let's start with the outside. This is the outside of the barn, and we made it very pretty. We put little shutters on it and fancy light and some tile over the top, and then a big entryway, and then a high peaked roof. And a high peaked roof. And when we go inside, I'll tell you why we made the roof so high. But the outside is mostly made for cosmetics to make it look nice. When you come inside the barn, there's a lock on the door, and that's to keep the goats from sneaking out. They don't as much as they did when they were younger, but they still do occasionally do that. And an important thing in the barn, especially in the wintertime, is to have electricity. And we have two lights in our barn, one here and then one in the chicken part of the barn. This little thing here is a thermometer, and it's a wireless thermometer. We get the reading inside. During the winter months, it's really important to keep the barn at a certain temperature, especially a certain humidity, which can cause the animals to get very ill. So we monitor it remotely with this little gadget here. The barn is way up there high so that we can store all of our hay during the winter, and you can see it's time to go get some more. It's all empty up there, nothing but cobwebs. So the goats have their little platform that they like to sleep on. They have their hay basket. They have their minerals and their baking soda. And then we have our little gate. And during the winter months it's enclosed, but in the summer months it's just a wire gate to let some air flow through. Down here we have a little enclosure, and we use that in the winter time to put the ducks in there when it gets very, very cold, that we feel like the ducks would be a lot warmer. And since the goats sleep up here, there's Leche eating some wood chips. Since the goats sleep up here, they create a lot of warmth for the ducks in the wintertime. Now we're going to go into the chicken area. I'm going to close the gate because Leche tries to get in here. So it's going to be a little tight. We have some egg laying boxes in here, and you can see that we have some eggs in there. A couple of green ones, well, 3 green ones and 1 little brown one. We'll have a few more before the day's over. And then we have a roost for them to roost on. And in chicken world, there's a pecking order, and the chickens that are the highest in the pecking order, they sleep up here. The higher you get, the higher in the pecking order you are. So we have some chickens that sleep on the ground and some that sleep on the roost and some that sleep up there. And then they have their little door as well, and we use a wire door during the summer months and then a solid door in the winter months to keep it warm. We have 2 windows in our barn, and we have mosquito netting over the windows so that to keep the flies and the other insects away. My husband, Mr. Steve, designed this barn for me when I told him I wanted to get some goats. We did have a little chicken barn, or chicken coop, I guess, and we had moved it out of the way and placed this barn in its place. Little did we know that we were going to have another use for that chicken coop. As Mr. Steve designed this barn, he took into consideration how many animals we were going to have, what kind of temperatures we have in this state, and how much room each animal needed. This little house used to be our chicken coop, and it looked a lot different when it was the chicken coop because it had these kind of shingles all the way up and down it. But when we decided to change it to a duck enclosure, we decided to make it look more like the big barn. The only thing we changed about it was that, and then also we changed the height, because chickens like to be up high, ducks like to be down low. So we cut the legs down and brought it down to the ground for the ducks. It's pretty stinky in there. I better get to clean. Well, this is the inside of the duck coop. Used to be the chicken coop. It has ventilation, which is really important for animals. And these were the laying boxes for the chickens, and they did a really good job of laying. So I had this, it goes up and down for me to get the eggs out. But the ducks, they just lay anywhere, so it's sometimes I even have to crawl in there to get the eggs. Silly ducks. That was a lot of hard work, and having animals is a lot of hard work. You have to remember that even though you don't feel like getting out of bed and going down to the barn and getting water, no matter what the weather, winter, rain, sleet, no matter what the weather, just like the mailman, you've got to go down to the barn and take care of the animals. Make sure they have the warmth, the shelter, their food, their water, everything they need. They depend on you to get it. It takes a lot of consideration before you decide to get an animal. Thank you for visiting Miss Annette's little farm in the big city. Make sure you get outside today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.